And we are back. Welcome back, everyone. I apologize for cutting the duct tape short a little bit there, as our players are ready for our next game. We are jumping in mid-series, and oh boy, it's been pretty intense. This is it. This is the ace match. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Blackburn ALE, we have the Mexican Zerg player representing Timbers Esports and Todos los Macacos. It is JimRising. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner of Blackburn ALE, we have the Peruvian Protoss player representing Unidos por el Vicio. It is Everness. And I was actually watching Jim stream his POV for the last game. It did seem like last game was on Hardwire. Everness opened up with double Stargate. It looked like he went Tempest first, but he was overly aggressive with his Tempest. I think he lost 1 or 2 in the middle of the map to Hydras, and then it went into a longer game from there, where JimRising, I was very proud of him. He actually transitioned to Corruptors and he took control of the skies. Everness switched to a Ground Toss army, but behind that, Jim was already transitioning into Ultras. So Jim honestly played that ZvP out very well. Much better than we typically expect from him, especially transitioning into the late game. So I was very happy to see that. Game 1 we did miss, and I don't know how Everness was able to take that game. I imagine it was using Skytoss. I imagine it was more of a more standard double Stargate Void Ray into carriers. But again, we can only speculate unless someone in the chat was also watching Jim's stream at the time. Meanwhile, we're now here in the ace match, and I wonder how Jim is going to approach this. For those wondering, Jim is overall the stronger player. He's one of the best in Latin America. He's made it to the top of DreamHack. He has beaten Cham before, but he's beaten Cham in a ZvZ, and this is a ZvP. And notoriously, Jim has been struggling in this matchup. It actually made him switch to Protoss for a while, and he still does play Protoss against certain Zerg players, even in tournaments, even in DreamHack, he did the same thing. So he does race switch depending on the matchup, but again, he still does play Zerg against Protoss here. He enjoys it more than PvP, for example. And he typically does struggle against the Skytoss and the late game. But again, if he's been working on it, and he did take some time off, he took some time off to play League of Legends and Halo Infinite and all this stuff, and now that he's back to playing consistently StarCraft, well, now he after a break, he's maybe looking at things in a new light. He's had some time to reflect and watch StarCraft and have a different approach at these matchups, and I do hope he's able to succeed here. Meanwhile, shout out to Everness for taking a game off of Jim. It's pretty impressive. Like, Everness is not a GM, he's not an established pro, so for him to take a game off of Jim is huge. For him to take a series off of Jim will be even better. Meanwhile, the Stork was being a little bit too overly ambitious. We do see that it is going to be a Stargate opener, so the openers seem pretty standard from here. I'm curious to see if he's going to go Tempest again, because this is not a bad map for Tempest, especially if your opponent is going for a Queen Walk. That's another thing that I was going to get to, is that I don't think I've seen Jim go for too many Queen Walks before. Is he going to start? Are we going to see something like that? At the moment, it is too early to tell, but again, I'm curious. I'm curious as to what this new and improved 2022 Jim has to offer. So far, everything's pretty standard from our Protoss player. You know, we have a Void Ray first. Are we going to get another Void Ray after this, or is he going to go into Oracles? We have seen, like, more Oracle play rise in popularity, go for counterattacks. But no, he is going for that Fleet Beacon instead. So very reminiscent of the previous game, and we have seen a lot of success with Tempest play, specifically on Blackburn, just because of how short the rush distance is by air, from base to base, and also how defensive you can be with your Tempest as well. I do worry, in the last game, I know we didn't get to cast it, but in the last game, Everness was very careless with his first couple of Tempests, as he was rallying them across the map, and he actually lost them. So hopefully this time he babysits them a little bit more. It's going to be easier to babysit them here on Blackburn as well. Of course, I was making the assumption that he was going into Tempest, but we see a carrier on the way instead. Okay. That's better. I was like, is this really what you want to be doing? I like it. So Everness was actually showing that off to Jim for the scout. Jim went in, he scouted carriers, and that is all he knows. But we see that Everness is actually switching into Fluxvein Void Rays instead. I love this. The carriers are going to force a certain response. I feel like seeing fast carriers, I feel like it would make sense for Jim to go into Hydras from here once his lair is done. As the lair just finishes up now, and there is the Hydra. So Hydras can do really well against carriers. So yeah, we'll see. I was gonna say Hydras going up against a low number of Void Rays also do pretty well as well. So hopefully Everness can get something done with these Void Rays. Obviously with Flux Veins, he's going to be very mobile with them, and the big scary moment is going to be when he has enough Void Rays, he can go across the map and he can right click on a hatchery. Thankfully, the hatchery in the main base is not the lair, so JimRising is making sure his lair is kept safe and hidden away from those Void Rays. Meanwhile, we do see a robotic spade thrown down. I kind of love this. Everness just saw... Well, actually, he didn't see the hydrogen. Oh, he's about to, actually. Is he? Up. He just barely doesn't. He confirms the location of the lair, and he can make a couple of assumptions, but here we go. Void Rays going to the main base. We have queens. We have spores. Jim is ready for this. We see a transfuse. Oh my god, Everness, no, what are you doing? He overextends and loses a Void Ray. Oh no! Void Ray, turn around! Everness making a couple of clumsy mistakes here. He throws away 2 of his Void Rays, confirms that there are Hydras. These disruptors will definitely help support the air army. It's not the best unit against Hydras, but it does help. But losing 2 Void Rays, that's almost game. Like JimRising, he can A-move and send everything across the map. And I don't know if Everness is going to have enough to defend. He's trying to get a couple of cannons. He's trying to get a couple of shield batteries. He's going to have overcharge. But will it be ready in time? JimRising is pushing on forward. The site defense isn't ready. It's not ready yet. And it's being focused down immediately. The cannons will not get done. Disruptor shot goes off and it will not connect. Uh-oh. That was the only disruptor. We have another on the way, but it's not ready. God, meanwhile the queens are slowly waddling across the map. Oh god, there are just so many Hydras. Overcharge hasn't been popped yet. Everness is being very patient. He's waiting for it. Meanwhile, the second disruptor is out. SimCity. Okay, there we go. It's on the way. But the Void Rays are being focused down. Overcharge is not enough. Disruptor shots are coming out, and he will connect with some of the queens, but he only kills 1 queen. Oh, but it looks like that may just barely be enough. Everness will defend. Oof, disruptor shots actually came into play. The queens, they weren't really able to get their transfuses off. I'm impressed. I thought Everness was losing too many Void Rays. He lost a decent amount of them. He lost 4 in total. But he has enough to counterattack. Instead, he opts to clear up creep, which makes sense, but it does mean that now JimRising's economy isn't really being punished, specifically his gold base. Like, imagine if the Void Rays went straight for the gold. Like, the gold would be dead, 100%. But he doesn't check. He doesn't check the gold. Oh no! Oh no! Disruptor, please! Oh god. Not like this. Not like this. Massive shout out to Biomorph in the chat. Thank you so much for the raid. I hope you enjoyed your NA Apprentice broadcast. I did notice that you were casting your group of NA Apprentice. I think it was group B or C. So I hope you had a good time there. Meanwhile, again, Everness being a little bit too careless there, throwing away 2 disruptors. Mate, you're making it really hard for me to cheer for you when you have like these beautiful defenses at home and you hold all these attacks and then your counterattacks like leave like they just struggle, mate. Oh my god. But again, thank you for the raid. Everness, he backs off, he's getting his 4th base. He's starting to diversify his AoE with Colossus. So having Colossus and Disruptors, which is nice. Meanwhile, speaking of nice, what is JimRising going for here? Like, as this game goes on, you would think that he would throw down or start working towards the Spire tech. He does have the Spire, but we still didn't see any upgrades. We still didn't see a Hive for things like Vipers. No, sorry, the Hive is done, but where are those Vipers that we were talking about? So far, he's still just working with pure Hydra. Still just making Hydras. Like, Hydras are okay, but they do fall off over time. Like, we need more. There it is. 4 Vipers are in production. And this is where I question the Colossus move. Like, he's got a couple of Disruptors, and I understand that he wants more of that splash damage. But ideally, you want to work towards High Templar. Not just for their Storm, but also for their feedbacks. Like, you need some counterplay against the Vipers. The Adepts do get across the map. They do harass the mineral line a little bit. They do get a couple of drones. But in the end, they get cleaned up. At least they confirm the army. They confirm the mass amount of Hydras. Now, what does Everness do with that information? Okay. Give us some Templar archives, please. Papi, por favor. As we're actually getting extended thermal lance instead. I mean, Colossus aren't bad against Hydras. They're not bad, but they are just these great beacons of, hey, just yoink me, abduct me, daddy, please. We'll see how the fight's gonna go. JimRising is getting ready to dive in. His Vipers aren't here though. Oh, they're still sucking on some energy. They're still gathering that energy. They're not ready. Jim, please. A couple more of them are about to rock up. How good are the abducts going to be? Shots go off. Some decent connections. Not amazing, but decent. Actually, there's a parasitic bomb. Beautiful split there by Everness. And here go the abducts. Does get one of the Colossus, but only one. Meanwhile, there's not a lot of energy left on these Vipers. There's only 2 remaining with anything. Oh my god, but that parasitic bomb working wonders. Almost every single Void Ray goes down. Everness not really respecting that spell as much as he should have. But does it even matter? Despite losing almost every single one of his Void Rays, there's still so much splash damage here. Zealots are coming in to reinforce. Boys are being pulled. Jim, not like this. Not like this, Jim. The Hydras are trying to force their way through. But he just lost every single Viper. We have the recall. We'll lose 1 carrier in the process. Thankfully for Jim, sure, he may have lost 16 drones, but look at how many bases this man has. Like, his drone count is still looking okay. 72 drones with a gold base isn't the worst thing. Oh boy. Everness, he's finally tuning into the stream. He's like, Templar Archives? That's not bad. Finally, he's getting his Templar Archives. But it is so late. We're going to have a second wave of Vipers before the High Templar come out. Meanwhile, Jim is getting ready to transition into these Ultras. I'm still a little bit sad that he never invested into the Spire. He got the Spire, but never got any upgrades, never worked towards the Corruptors. Like, let's be real, it only takes a couple of storms for this Hydra army to just evaporate. Thankfully for Jim, there just haven't been any storms. Even here, I'm getting triggered. He morphs in the High Templar and gets Archons out. It's like, mate, get Storm. You can do it. Everness, por favor. Still no Storm. And doesn't have any High Templar for feedbacks. Okay, never. I thought we had 1 High Templar. It's actually a Sentry. So he won't have anything for feedbacks either. Oh my god, JimRising almost getting ready for a full surround. Everness does catch an Ultra for free. Not bad at all. He doesn't have a War Prism here, which is a little bit worrisome, so he can't really reinforce this army. He's starting to run out of buffer. Everness, you need to turn around. You can't just keep pushing in. Like, where are the Zealots? Oh my god, Everness, no. A couple more ducks come in. The reinforcing zealots do finally come across the map. And he's getting on top of some of these upgrades, to be fair. But he is running out of steam. Like, this is making me so nervous. He's overextending hard, and the ultras are coming out. More yoinks come in. Thankfully for Everness, as we also had an insane disruptor shot go off. The ultras have been coming out one at a time, but over time, eventually Jim does overwhelm this. The entire army of the Protoss is just falling apart. There was so much potential here. But Jim, he holds on, only loses 3 of his drones, barely keeps his tech structures alive. He did end up losing one of his Evo chambers, but does it really matter? No. Oh god. As we do see JimRising stutter stepping forward, then we have an overcharge, but overcharge isn't OP enough. Not here, not for Everness. As he was transitioning to Immortals, which do help against said ultras, but there just isn't enough here. The Hydras move on forward. GG gets called, and JimRising will take the series 2-1. But Everness played his heart out. Again, he did come in the underdog into this series, but even here in the ace match, there were moments, there were some insane moments where it looked like he was at the advantage, right? Like his defenses at home, the way that he was trading with his army. There were just a couple of moments where he slipped up, you know, where it came to, say, his disruptor control, or even, you know, some void rays, some miss rallies, and overall army composition as well. Relying too much on those Colossus, maybe. Oh. But GG, well played. Congratulations, Jim. He continues his run in this tournament, and he will move on to the semifinals to face another Protoss player, to face another Mexican Protoss in Paco Mike. Let's go, Jim versus Paco. It is going to be a rematch. As I think it was last week, maybe the week before. The week before, we had a JimRising versus Paco Mike finals in Copa Hyperion. I remember casting that with Cristiano, and it was disappointing finals. If you remember, I think Paco Mike cheesed 3 games in a row. After having an intense long macro ZvP, where Paco Mike just barely gets over Ryu and knocks him out of the tournament, Paco Mike gets to the grand finals against Jim and just memes it up. And he even said it in the chat. He's like, well, I was just having fun. Like, oh, god damn it, Paco. Like, he was trying to have fun and trying to... again, he wasn't really taking it seriously, and he was punished for it. So JimRising deserved that win. But now, hopefully, this time, we do see a more serious Paco Mike. We know he has it in him. Just because I want to see if our new JimRising, if his late game can really match that of Paco Mike. Oh. GG.